Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and it's time for some more hot, sweaty Wonder action. It's been a good couple months or so since I've played a Wonder, and the last one I made was more or less just a starting character, whereas this is going to be much more of a sort of end game and expensive as balls. Well, can be expensive as balls. Uh, just CI Phys Chaos sort of Wander. So if you've seen me make my previous Deadeye Ranger, this is the same sort of concept, running Crown of Eyes, some pretty cheap gear in other slots, and scaling physical and chaos damage for the most part, with bits of elements like lightning in other parts of the tree, or gear. It's mostly gear actually. And I'll show you how to go about doing this, but so far, yeah, I haven't spent too much. It's been a few exalts, and it still face rolls the game. It's still amazing, and being CI and Occultist has just made life so much easier as a Wander. It just takes a bit more to get started, because you do need some decent ES gear, and it's kind of hard to maintain good DPS while also building towards resists and defenses and all that. Whereas a life-based Wander will probably get off the ground just a bit easier, though caps out on potential a lot sooner, since you can only get like 5k life, whereas here you should be able to hit 10k yes if you really want, and that makes pretty much everything in this game super fucking comfortable, super easy. As in, the real tough stuff, like Uber Siri, Core Malachi, all those, it helps you avoid the one-shots. And thanks to Frostwall still being, for some fucking reason, still in the game the way it is, a single target damage is absolutely crazy on this build, and I don't even have poison linked yet, which is something I'm going to do eventually when I feel like I need the single target damage. Now that'll probably come into play when I start doing things like Uber, but up until Uber and probably Malachi in core, I don't think I'm going to need poison, and you basically see that throughout the video as to why. But I will also show off throughout the video. This is currently just a Poor Joe's map, and yeah, I'm running Herald of Ice for this map instead of Wrath like I normally do, just so I can shatter, and it makes clearing these mobs a lot easier, since they do resurrect and all that sort of bullshit. But just Herald of Ice, the ice damage on that alone is enough for me to shatter monsters, as well as porcupines and all of that in maps, and it adds an extra level of safety, which I don't normally need though. In any case, I was going to mention how goddamn amazing CI and in particular Occultist is for quite a lot of things, and the biggest one is Lab. This is Uber Lab here, Uber Zero Lab, and I basically ignore every single trap and every single mechanic and just fucking face roll my way through it. Now, the traps themselves don't seem to do that much damage to CI anymore, and it's, yeah, pretty easy just to take that damage. And thanks to the Occultist passives, the ones that start your ES regen and don't stop till you're fully regen, you can keep taking those traps and just getting shit on without caring, and it can regen you infinitely. The biggest problem you're going to run into right now that I can see is having too much damage. As you can see, I'm trying my best to kill Azara here without killing his 3 lieutenants, which means I have to bait him well away from them so that I can actually truck him down in a couple of hits, because I want the extra key from this Azara, and shooting just wildly into him will kill the lieutenants way too easily, since I have a decent amount of AoE from my tree and gear as well, which I'll show you in just a minute. So this is my first Uber Lab run, I think, or first one since I got my ascendancy points anyway, and it's really quite comfortable, especially thanks to Frostwall, and having a large amount of energy shield means I don't really even have to dodge too much. I can face tank him as much as I want, but try not to, regardless, just as a good practice. That said though, the damage is insane, and I kill him quite quickly, even though I've still got quite a long way to go to cap out my damage. So basically go over what this wonder takes, involves, and in general what wonders involve, as I have mentioned it quite a few times in previous videos, but wonders are still kind of an enigma to a lot of people, and rightfully so, they can be a bit confusing. Currently level 85, I am an occultist as a witch, but I originally started as an elementalist just because I wanted to, I don't know, bring a bit of flavour to this character with conflicts, prolif, and 2 golems. But that ended up being kind of worthless, and I was just missing too many good perks as an occultist to justify being an elementalist. So what an occultist does for this build is essentially a lot of the things that a Skyforth boots would do, which as you know are very expensive, and then a few other perks. Most importantly, you get your 10% power charge on crit, plus another power charge, so that's a good little damage boost there, and the actual power charge on crit is very reliable for boss fights, and also just for map clearing, which is a very easy fix for power charges for a wander. Now, on top of that, you get quite a lot of extra ES. From the 4 different little passives, you get another 32% in total, and then you get 100 over here, and these 2 nodes are very useful. This one was the one I was talking about for the lab. Energy shield recharge is not interrupted by damage if recharge began recently. So after you take damage from that spike, if you have enough energy recharge rate, for example, if you even grab something like this, Essence Surge, then you'll probably start regenning before the next trap even starts hitting you, and that means it's just going to keep regenning you and you won't be able to die to traps. And that applies in many other situations while playing the character too. And then on top of that, immune to stun while on full energy shield benefits you quite a lot actually. I have absolutely no stun resistance on my character right now. I'm not using an Eye of Chiola, and I don't have any stun immunity anywhere else. And I'm perfectly fine playing with just this and having lots of DPS. Now lastly I went for Void Beacon, minus 20 Chaos Res, because I do have quite a lot of Chaos damage, as you can see. This is the current damage spread on my character. Probably about 30% Phys, half Chaos, and about 20% Lightning, something like that. Now, all of my Chaos damage is coming entirely from the Chaos Gem, as you can see, except for just this absolute smidge on my necklace. Now, why does it give me so much? That's just because of the nature of wand scaling. As I've talked about in past videos for wanding and all that, a lot of your damage is just general sort of attack damage, meaning it's going to apply to everything. Your Phys, your Chaos, your Elemental, all of that shit. Because as you can see here, it says increase damage with wands, all the way across. Crit and crit multi, increased wand damage per power charge. Then you got your projectile damage. All of it is just general damage to scale. And then all of your jewel sockets do exactly the same thing. Spell damage, I should mention, Crown of Eyes turns all your spell damage into attack damage, which just ends up being general damage that applies to all of your attacks. So Chaos, Phys, and Elemental. So then we stack spell damage to get all kinds of extra increased damage, and I end up having something like, I don't know, 200% extra spell damage, which is 200% extra attack damage. Meaning, all I gotta do is chuck in a nice fat added chaos, and I almost double my DPS, and in the form of chaos. So pretty much all of my damage then is Phys, Chaos, and Lightning, and it was very easy to scale without insane levels of wands, for example. So this is the wand I'm using, and it's the wand I bought a few days ago for about 10 to 15C. I just checked, there's still a few out there like this for fairly cheap prices. All you're looking for is good crit. You don't really need attack speed, but good attack speed is good too. A little bit of Phys, it's got something like 150 Phys DPS, and some spell power, which is even easier now because imbued wands and all wands have better spell power than they previously did. So all in all, it's a strong, easy wand that then then helps me scale all of my general damage, like Chaos, and plenty of other damage from my gear, like added Lightning, which I've gone out of my way to get because it scales so goddamn well. This is a ring I just then bought that no one bought yet, and it would only cost 10 chance orbs, yet it's basically perfect for my build. because lightning damage, cold damage, fire damage to attacks is infinitely better than Wed on this build. And I'll give you an example of that. A good example would be, say, this Wed right here. Wed compared to just, let's say, lightning and Phys, even though that's a bit unfair. Can't actually do that, can I? No, that's fine. So we're comparing Wed, let's just say, to lightning and Phys. I'll turn on my aura just to be fair for the Wed. Let's say we have 38k sitting here. You put on a nice fat amount of Wed, and what do we get? 39.4. So that gives you about 1000 DPS. You put on the fat lightning and Phys ring, and what do you get? 41.8. So that's 3k, 3.3k DPS. Granted, that's 2 rolls versus 1, but the reason behind this, essentially, is because we have such little damage to begin with, but so much damage scaling, that an extra 30% Wed essentially doesn't do shit. Even if you have a lot of other elemental damage, which I don't, because I'm mostly Chaos and Phys, it's just that when you already have all this general damage, the spell damage, the attack damage, some other Wed, whatever, when you have probably something like 500 or 600%, another 30% isn't going to do much. So Wed becomes much weaker here, whereas I barely have any Phys or Lightning to begin with. I add that, and it gets scaled by my other damage, and it becomes an absolutely huge ring. And this is the kind of ring that no one's really looking for, apparently, because I bought it for pennies. Even this thing, it's not particularly good for me, but I've been using it up until now, and it's worked. And likewise, I bought this ring for 20 chaos. I then crafted that percent ES myself, which is about an exalt, but this is pretty much the perfect ring for me, and it only cost 20 chaos. This right here was basically the perfect amulet for me, and it cost something like 10 or 15 chaos. Because what you're looking for is that flat damage, a nice crit multi-roll, since that's probably the second highest, or the highest thing you can scale on your amulet, accuracy if you can get it, and then I actually exalted the percent ES on myself, and then you can craft your own chaos damage, which gives you a good boost as well. Besides that, running 90 crit multi on gloves, as always. Bought this belt for some reason for 50 chaos. I asked the guy what he wanted, he said 50 chaos. Seems pretty good to me. I then put the 5 movement speed on with the divine myself. These boots ran me, I think these are about 20 chaos. They're nothing too special, they just fill out a lot of resists. I still want better than these, to be honest. And a crown of eyes cost me 20c at the beginning. They're probably a bit more expensive now. This shield, I think, cost me 20c as well. What you're looking for on a shield is a lot of spell damage, a lot of energy shield, and a bit of resist if you can. So it's going to be really hard to get higher than 300 ES while maintaining spell damage. You kind of have to pick and choose your battles. If you don't want spell damage, you can get a 500 ES shield for about an exalt. That's not too much of a problem. And you don't really need this spell damage. I could easily drop a lot of damage at this point, but you know me, I love my DPS. Besides that, running a Stibnite, Quicksilver, a Silver Flask, and a Series Promise, which is quite a lot of the leech on my build at the moment, and a Mana Flask, which helps when I don't have a Vial Clarity up. As I was saying, Zeri Flask is quite a lot of my leech right now, because the other part of my leech is Crown of Eyes, and that's only the Phys portion. I don't actually have any other leech, and Vial Pact helps me sustain versus quite a lot of things, and thanks to that leech. So yeah, pop my flask, have Vial Pact, and that more or less keeps me alive. But if you want more reliable leech, you could use like Warlord's Mark, or even the Life Leech Gem. That's not a big deal. The chest I'm using is a Beast Fur Shawl. Bought that for about 30c a few days ago. 6-socketed and got lucky enough to 6-link it, but I don't even need a 6-link. I could easily survive off of a 4-link if I wanted right now. This would be my staple 4-link, by the way. Kinetic Blast, GMP, Added Chaos, and Pierce. Once again, you want 100% Pierce with this and the Pierce gem, just so that you can abuse Frostwall like there's no tomorrow. Beyond that, my next link, I don't even need crit strikes anymore, but I'm still using it just because I'm kind of lazy. My next link is probably Poison, and beyond that, it might be crit multi, it might be faster attacks. There's no real solid choice for me beyond that point. Slow approach is good too, but it increases mana quite substantially. In any case, that's pretty much the character. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with Frostwall. As I've mentioned before, Frostwall is so overpowered because every time Kinetic Blast pierces through something, it triggers the explosions. So if you don't pierce anything, you can see the explosions barely happen. If you put down all of your Frostwalls and then throw your Kinetic Blasts, as they pierce through, they're going to trigger the explosions, and all the little explosions overlap. So it does help having some area of effect from there and here, basically to help the little things overlap. And as you can see, it becomes very effective, and you can see that in the boss kills themselves. Drop 6 Frostwalls, and fucking boom. That's why it's overpowered. That's why it's so strong. And look forward to seeing more of that in the future as I refine this character and fine tune it, because it's still got a bit of a way to go. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.